Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Welcome to the Rise to Lead podcast. With me today is Andrew Sendejo from Austin, Texas, who has a very inspiring story that I cannot wait to share with you and to learn about more myself, actually, as well. So, Andrew, welcome to Rise to Lead.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you could make it. I know you're a very busy person. You have several businesses in several different industries and an amazing story. So I'm really honored to have you on. Let me introduce you first to your listeners who might not be familiar with you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew is a 12-year NFL veteran, an entrepreneur and an investor, and he loves to give back. For the people who are not familiar with the NFL, we have an international audience. This is a National Football League in the United States. Andrew defied the odds, going from undrafted All-American to NFL starter. After a career-ending concussion, he pivoted his focus, co-founding BrainTree Nutrition, a company dedicated to developing science-backed supplements for cognitive health and brain function. Andrew's expertise extends beyond the gridiron. He is also a successful real estate investor and angel investor, actively supporting early-stage companies through Fourth and One Ventures. You're going to explain a little bit more about that later, probably. Plus, he's passionate about giving back, partnering with Rice University Athletics to provide their first NIL deal, and mentoring student athletes. Andrew is a captivating speaker known for his wit and engaging personality. Andrew, again, welcome.
Yes, thanks for having me. Hopefully I can stand up to the intro that I just had there as far as the wit and the personality part.
We'll see. It's early in the morning where you are, so hopefully you're a morning person.
I am.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I cannot wait to hear more details about your story. Tell us what happened with your concussion and how you even got into your current businesses, but also maybe the backstory.
Yeah, so in my 12 years in the NFL, which is one of the most violent sports in the world, I still had a hard time finding banned substance-free, effectively dosed products to help with cognitive health, focus, memory, neuroprotection. And in my last year, I had 2 concussions. My last concussion was extremely gruesome. And that's when I went 100% in on brain health and started to launch BrainTree Nutrition, creating clinically backed products that work synergistically together to improve your cognitive health. It's been a lifesaver for me. It's helped restore my own brain health. I'm a customer of my own business, and it was just something that I knew that I needed, my peers needed in the NFL, just after years of witnessing, firsthand head trauma, repetitive TBIs, concussions. I wanted to do something that that I could help kind of give back to my teammates, myself, and really just for everyone that's looking for more effectively dosed products to improve their cognitive health. And so since retiring, I've been working on that. I mean, that's what takes up most of my time out of kind of all the other business ventures that you mentioned. And so I've had, in my 2 years of being done playing football, a crash course in e-commerce business and startup and scaling the business all at the same time while managing all the other kind of ventures I have going on and trying to when you're done playing football, you try to kind of check off all these areas that you couldn't do while you were playing football. So getting more time with family, traveling, all these different areas. So it's been a very fun journey. I've been learning a lot. And I think what makes me the most excited is that I'm able to kind of give back now. And I've always said, when you're playing in the NFL or at any elite level sport, you really have to be kind of selfish at times. So you have to put your training first, your nutrition, a lot of sacrifice. You're not seeing your family all the time, not seeing your friends. And so, after years of kind of living in that kind of selfish, career-driven mentality, this is a way to still have a post NFL career business while also giving back at the same time. So it's been a fun venture for me for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So it's what you call selfish and making sacrifices at the same time, though. You have your priority shift over a lifetime, I always say, because we never really find balance. That is a myth. And I think, as we move along in life, our priorities shift. And that's exactly what you have been describing, if I got that right.
Yes, and it's just been, I think one of the most satisfying parts of it is getting the feedback from people that have been using the products and seeing the benefits, feeling better, sleeping better, focus, memory, all these kind of areas of cognitive health that we try to approach, and people giving us feedback that they're seeing improvements. And that was the whole point of it in the first place, was to help people out, to give people products that we knew were backed with the science, with the human clinical studies, with the ingredients that we use. And so I think that's one of the most just satisfying parts of having a business like this where you're actually trying to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I should try those products for sure. We can all benefit from greater focus,
Yes, we can.
especially in these times of so much radiation. We are constantly exposed to Wi-Fi and all the different types of radiation. And we notice that there's more brain fog,
There's a lot
and
more brain
not
fog.
just age.
Yeah. And we always say that brain health is mental health. Mental health is brain health. They're synonymous in our worlds. And when you can't stay on task, you can't stay productive, you're forgetting essential parts of your life, you're missing appointments, you're late, etc. That creates stress, which affects your sleep, which then affects your diet, which then it starts to snowball into this effect. And so those are the little areas of life that maybe don't necessarily always sound like mental health. We are a brain health supplement company, but those two kind of coincide. And so when you can elevate those areas of your life, it improves your mental health, because now you're not forgetting these important appointments. You're not forgetting birthdays and all these different kind of areas of your life that you have to keep up with. You're sleeping better. And so they all work together. It improves your energy, your mood, and you just feel better as well.
Absolutely. So it is also true that our emotions, for example, our feelings are chemical processes, and our brain has a big role. Yeah, they are literally produced in our brain. So definitely can see the connection here, you
Yeah.
know?
It's the command center. It's where everything starts and ends. And if you don't have that right, it's really hard to have a lot of other areas in your life also work out accordingly.
Right. And a lot of people do take supplements also for those biochemical processes to support them. So I think a lot of our listeners also understand this. Plus, and you mentioned forgetting appointments, for example, it's really, really important for our relationships.
Absolutely. Missing, whether it's you were supposed to call your mom or your wife, fiance, or if you have kids. I don't have kids, but I know from having nieces and nephews that, keeping up with the kids and different family oriented items in your life, it does affect your relationship. So it sounds like, at first, like, oh, well, that's not really going to affect all these kind of major parts of my life, but the little things always turn into big things.
Absolutely. Everything adds up. Yes. So most of us have had to overcome setbacks in our lives, right? I at least don't know anybody who hasn't. And you have overcome some really, really serious ones. So tell us a little bit more about that. You mentioned the injury, um, but also this podcast is really about seeing the opportunity in the adversity, right? Or what we call adversity sometimes, because I believe that there is an opportunity in any adversity, as hard as it might be to go through it. I've gone through some really serious ones myself, even though not all of them were related to health, right? So how did your setbacks help you grow?
Yeah, I think even starting from college, wanting to go to the NFL out of college is extremely hard. I couldn't even tell you what the percent of people that actually make it. And going into my last year where I needed to play my best, I actually had a season-ending injury. And that's kind of the typical story in sports, is an injury that kind of holds you back and doesn't allow you to go to the next level. And so at a very crucial time in my life where I needed to be 100%, I was actually at 0%.
Wow.
And that's where I kind of already didn't have a lot in my favor to go to the next level. And that's where I had to make this choice of, all right, do I sit here, feel sorry for myself, maybe just try to go get a quote regular job, or do I go pursue my passion? And ultimately, my decision was to chase the dream that I had had since I was a kid. I actually grew up a soccer player and I wanted to be a professional MLS player. But where I grew up in South Texas, you have to play football at some point in your life. So that kind of took over. And so I was like, you know what? This opportunity is only going to be here for so long versus a job in the real world will always be there. So I'm going to pick this path and I'm going to go pursue my dream. And so I had to really kind of climb out of the adversity hole, as far as rehabbing back from a surgery, and then going undrafted and kind of having a couple of tryouts with teams, getting rejected from teams. You start to have a lot of self-doubt because you go to these tryouts and you think you did really well, you think you crushed it, and then you don't hear anything. They don't say, hey, we want to sign you. We think you're good enough to be on this team. They kind of just don't say anything. And so I didn't actually go right to the NFL out of college. I went and played in a developmental league in the United Football League, the original one, which then folded and then restarted again. So it's a developmental league for guys that were in my situation to go play, develop, play with other former pros and guys trying to make it to the NFL. And I elected to go play there. I was able to get picked up out of that league to go to the NFL. And so even then you're thinking, success, you finally made it to the NFL. Well, not so fast, because now that you're in the NFL at the highest level, now the competition is even more fierce. And so I found myself getting cut from 3 different teams, and then again, self-doubt. Am I good enough to play in this league? Am I good enough to play at this level? And you go through all that emotional roller coaster of, do I continue to pursue this passion, or do I give up, so to say, and go kind of pursue a normal work 9 to 5 job? And again, I just always had a lot of self-belief. I knew I could play at that level, and I continued to just stay on the course and just stayed the path and kept my head down. And after a few different tryouts, I finally signed with a team that I fit into their system, I fit into the coaching scheme, and I was put in a position that was favorable for me as an athlete, and was able to play for 12 years in the NFL, which is 4 times the average length of an NFL career. And so it was kind of your typical story of you're making progress and then there's a huge setback and then you have to kind of overcome it and then finally making it to the NFL and then another huge setback of kind of getting cut and released from different teams and you're moving everywhere every couple of months. And I think that's where it just, it kind of comes to the mindset of believing in yourself and knowing, okay, I can play at this level. I can play with these guys and I know I'm good enough to play here. And then even throughout my NFL career, even being sort of a solidified player on the team, you still have competition every single year. Someone's always trying to take your job. And so even throughout my 12 seasons, a lot of injuries. I also, even in the middle of my career, signed with a new team, got cut. And so it was just a constant battle. Anything that you're doing in life that's at this kind of 1% elite level, it's never just going to be a smooth, easy career. There's always going to be some type of battle that you're enduring, some type of adversity that punches you right in the teeth. And it's really just almost being a little bit stubborn and almost naive at times, so where you have to just continue to reiterate in your own mind of, no, I can do this. No, I can do this. No, I can do this. Keep pounding the rock. And I think at the end of my career, once I got into my 12th season, I had hit a couple of personal goals. I had hit the longevity goal of kind of playing at that 10-year double, mark, which is a big check mark in the NFL to be able to say you played 10 years. So everything after that was kind of bonus for me. And my last season in my 12th year, after having 2 concussions and my, extremely gruesome kind of last play of my career concussion, that was when, I decided to kind of step back. I was still able to walk around. I still had most of my health. Obviously I had 8 surgeries while I played, so still a lot of lingering kind of issues there, on top of the, repetitive concussions and things like that. But, have been able to, I was able to kind of walk away in somewhat one piece. And it's also a combination of you've kind of maxed out your time in the NFL. And so just, kind of wrapping that all up as far as the adversity, it was just kind of a constant, you get some progress, then you have a setback, progress, setback. And then at the end of it, looking at it in totality, you kind of see that, almost, still trending in the right direction throughout my career. And so I was able to kind of walk away satisfied with what I had been able to accomplish through all the adversity that I had faced throughout my career.
Wow, I'm so glad you walked away in one piece, because
Yes.
this is how we can also be inspired by your impressive story. Thank you so much for sharing so many details about it. I think it's very, very important to also hear a vivid description of what it's actually like, right? Because a lot of people think it's all glory, and it's not. It's hard work. Also, I think what you said about hanging in there, going back, knocking on more doors. A lot of people who go for job interviews or have ever done a series of job interviews can relate to that too. And some may just be in that situation right now. So it's a great reminder to not get discouraged. As a leader as well, if you are maybe an aspiring leader or a new leader, hang in there. Even if it's not working out with that leadership role, that official one, you can still be a leader in your own capacity and show us your potential, and eventually somebody will recognize it. And of course, also positioning yourself is important, as Andrew did as well, right? And then I also wanted to say one more thing, which I found interesting. You said sometimes you were a little naive almost. And I love that, because I can so relate to it. When I wasn't as aware of things as I am now in my life, I've had a few decades of life now. Sometimes I let things happen and I trust it, and eventually something worked out. And I think sometimes we also need to get that original trust back and really, really have that faith that we are supported somehow. So really, really inspiring story. Thank you. Oh, and one thing, of course, yeah, so you also played soccer. Of course, you know that in other places it's called football. So in the US, it's definitely not the same to saying. And yes, and soccer players also play a lot with their heads. So
Yes, they
they
do.
have a lot of very serious impact that they have to endure in their brains
Yes,
as
they
well.
do. I think a lot of people don't realize in a lot of these elite level sports how much mental agility is going into the game and how much strategy is going into the game.
Mhm.
I know I've spoken to several people that they thought during a football game, but we were kind of just out there almost freestyling and just kind of going with the flow like it was a pickup game. And once I finally explained how much strategy was actually going into every single part of the game, they were kind of mind blown as to like, wow, I didn't realize that every single part of this game is kind of thought out and strategized. And same with a lot of other sports. I'm sure a lot of people probably watch soccer or basketball or whatever it is, and they think, oh, they're just kind of out there playing pickup soccer or pickup basketball, when that's actually not the case. There's a lot of film study. There's a lot of just overall studying the opponent, their techniques, their tendencies. You have to memorize a lot of information that you download each week for each new opponent, and then you almost have to wipe it all clean and then re-download a whole new set of information for the next opponent. And you're doing that every week on top of balancing the physical demand, the exterior demands of just life. You have family coming in town to watch, come see you play, coming to visit you, things like that. So you have all these kind of areas that athletes deal with during the course of a season that kind of pull on you mentally in all these different directions. So there's a huge mental part of the game that people don't realize as well.
Yes. You mentioned, yes, the mental part of the game in terms of studying and strategizing. And then there's, of course, also something that I'm assuming you do probably too is mental rehearsals, because we know that a lot of athletes use also, in addition to the physical training, they also use mental training in a way of visioning, right? Did you do that as well? I'm curious.
Absolutely. So we would do what we would call as like a walkthrough. So you wouldn't actually like practice it, but you would kind of walk through things, and you would have to, mentally kind of picture different plays and how they would unfold. You'd have to do that at a walking pace and then kind of reimagine in your brain, okay, like at full speed, this angle is actually going to be different. But definitely a huge visual part of the game as far as like picturing, making the plays. At times when you're watching game film, you're trying to kind of put yourself in that place and kind of picture, how would I actually see this in first person view? How would I react to this? So, and we always would kind of imagine us making the right play or making the right decision, and just kind of reinforcing that in your brain, because you have to have all those already ready to go, all your decisions ready to go. Because if you don't, in the game, it's happening so fast, you won't be able to react in time. And so it almost has to be somewhat predetermined in your mind before you even go into the game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you're much better prepared. And again, the self-belief comes through it too, because when you go through something in your mind and you see yourself successful in a specific situation, then it also builds the belief that you can actually do it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, there's times where even your coach, trying to tell you certain new techniques, coaching tactics on how to make a certain play, there's times where you would still doubt yourself, and you're thinking, there's no way I can do that. That's just like not humanly possible. And then you do it one time and you're like, oh my gosh, wait, I can do that. And then that creates this momentum that is kind of unstoppable after that. And really that's why it's almost like you have to be naive to almost believing that you can do things that are almost outside of your range as a person, that you thought you couldn't do. And then all of a sudden you do it one time, and your eyes open to the fact that you actually do have the ability to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, that is very powerful. I also sometimes ask my clients as a coach, not a sports coach, but a leadership coach and career coach. I ask them to list their achievements and their accomplishments, because there's so much usually in our lives that we didn't think we could have accomplished before we actually did.
That is true. That is definitely true. And I think that's always something that people should do when they do have moments of self-doubt, is to like take a step back and reflect on who you really are. And you go through that list and you're saying, dang, like I am, I am an elite, whatever it is that you do. And going back to those accomplishments, and kind of reminding yourself of how good of a businessman, leader, a coach, player, whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I studied your website a little bit, right? BrainTree Nutrition, and I read there that, well, it's a BrainTree Nutrition. I want to read it here. I'm looking for my notes here. Uh, Building a resilient brain supports cognitive health. Okay, we talked about this. And on your website, it says that your products have 10,000 plus five-star reviews. Wow. That is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, we obviously are extremely grateful for the feedback that we get. And I think that's part of when you base your products on the science and on the studies that have proven to be effective. um, that you're going to get the best feedback and the best results. And so that's another exciting part about this venture, is that I'm always getting to learn more research, studying new ingredients that are coming out, seeing what's new out there that we can continue to help people. And so continuing to innovate on the ingredient side and discover new ingredients, test them out, read the studies, and see what we can do to help people even more.
Okay, great. Yes, and your website also says that BrainTree Nutrition upholds the highest standards of honesty, trust, and transparency. And these are definitely essential leadership traits and values. So,
Yes.
do you want to tell us more about them? Honesty, trust, and transparency. How are these values reflected, not just in your products,
Yeah.
but also in your company?
Right. So a lot of times in the dietary supplement industry, because the FDA does not have to clear every single product, there are a lot of companies that can use poor manufacturing practices, or they put all their ingredients into a proprietary blend. And so you don't actually know how much of each ingredient that you're getting. So it will just list out all the ingredients but not the amount. And so you can't really double check or fact check to see if they're using an effective dose. And because our products are manufactured right here in Texas in an FDA, GMP, and NSF certified manufacturing facility, it ensures the accuracy, the dose, the purity, and the highest standards of manufacturing practices. And so that's something that we pride ourselves on, because originally when we started this, it was really for us and our teammates. So we made it as best as we could. It wasn't, obviously we knew we were going to give it to consumers at some point, but the first initial thought process was, we need this for ourselves and for our teammates. So we made it as best as we could. And we pride ourselves on that, and being there for every step of the process, from the sourcing to the packaging, to blending the ingredients, to distributing and shipping it. We're there for every step of the process. And that just ensures the quality of the product, the quality that we want to pass on to our customers, and really just trying to also kind of help the narrative of dietary supplements. There's a lot of stigma around, oh, well, it's just kind of the Wild West and you can do whatever you want. And that's really only in a few places. For example, someone can have a product on an Amazon that they sourced everything from China. They had it all made there. It got drop shipped to an Amazon warehouse, and they never even saw one part of the manufacturing process, never even touched the product, have never seen it in real life. And there's not third-party testing on the batches to make sure there's no heavy metals or banned substances.
Yeah, that's
And
important.
now it's listed there, and um, you're able to go buy that off of Amazon that had kind of no vetting process on the quality of the product. And so for us, we wanted to be able to ensure that everything was coming from a third-party tested lab to ensure you got the highest dose, the purest ingredients that you could. Also because we serve it to a lot of athletes, and being a pharmaceutical grade product, you have to kind of have those strict manufacturing practices in order to kind of qualify for that category.
Okay. Okay. And how are these values of honesty, trust, and transparency reflected in your company culture, or in your teams?
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's those are all qualities of a leader. And as founder and CEO, those are things that I implement every day with my coworkers, with anyone that is associated or works with me. And, really just, we always like to say, lead from the front. And so that's kind of like a sports kind of terminology of, like, the leaders always are the first ones in the line to, start the drill, or, they'll be the first ones to go figure it out. And I think it's something that carries over in, communicating with your employees, communicating with your customers, different accounts, and just being honest up front about everything that's happening. I think it's very easy in the business world. It happens all the time to either fudge certain numbers or kind of mislead people on certain areas. And I think as long as you're just doing everything as correctly, as elite as you can, similarly to when I was an NFL athlete, I think everything else will kind of fall into place. And those are just qualities that you'll never be wrong by embodying those qualities. Like, you're never gonna, there's never gonna be a time where they go back and you're like, oh man, I should have been, I should have been dishonest right there. That would have been better for me. There's just never really a time that would ever make sense. And so, we try to embody and have those qualities be reflective with anyone that is associated with BrainTree Nutrition.
Absolutely. I love it. And it's also related to heart-centered leadership, which this podcast is all about as well, as it's mostly about. So my overarching theme, I should say, is bold heart-centered leadership. So what does that mean to you, the word heart-centered leadership? It may mean different things to different people.
I think my time of being through a ton of locker rooms, I've seen multiple ways to be a leader and multiple types of leaders. There's some people that are not very vocal and they only lead by example.
Mhm.
You see them working hard, they do the right things, they play hard, practice hard, and it shows up on game day. There's other leaders that are just good, and maybe they're just more vocal, but maybe they don't do all the little things right. But really, to me, leaders are just kind of anybody that you kind of look up to or you aspire to in one particular category. They don't necessarily need to check every single box, but I think there's leaders in certain areas, and so there's people that you're like, man, I really like aspire to be more like this person because of the way they handle this situation. Or like, man, that person is a really hard worker. Like they're in here early, they grind it out, they stay late. And I think for me personally as a leader, I've always, like I mentioned, leading from the front and leading by example, and still having a little bit of vocal aspect to that. I think I think to be a true leader, you have to have all those kind of areas at least checked a little bit. Depending on your personality, but I don't want the guy that's all rah talking but not, backing it up, and the opposite as well. And the bold is being the guy that's first in line and leading from the front, and almost being that stubborn kind of leader in a way of like, no, this is how it's got to be done, this is the path, follow me. And even in football, you have to kind of know your role. There's followers and there's leaders, and not everyone has to be a leader. Sometimes your role is to just follow, and that's okay because you're still doing your part and you're doing your role. And so we let the leaders lead, let the followers follow. And I think eventually, if you do want to be in a leadership role, part of that is being in the backseat as a follower and learning from the leaders that you're taking direction from, and kind of cherry picking. I really like the way that guy does that. I like the way this girl does that. And you kind of over time create your own leadership style that you really enjoy. And then when your time comes to be a leader, then you can fully implement that as just years of kind of collecting other leadership strategies.
Absolutely. That is beautifully said. Sometimes in some situations we are followers, in other situations we are leaders, and we can absolutely be the same person. And also what's important, what you mentioned, is that our words and our actions are aligned. Sometimes it's more action that we lead through, and sometimes it's more words that we lead through. But what's also important, I think, is that they are in tune, and that they are not off of each other, so that people can see that we come from an authentic place. And then it has to do again with what you talked about earlier, this honesty and this transparency, right? And so that people can then trust us, which was the third value that you mentioned on your website. That has been such a wonderful conversation. I wanted to quickly, because we do have a few more minutes, but we want to quickly touch on the work you do at Rice University, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I am very passionate about giving back to my alma mater at Rice University. I think it's part of, again, showing an example of leadership to where when the current players, when they're graduated and they're done, they want to give back and they want to come back and be involved with Rice University. And so I've done that in a couple of ways. I donated the Andrew Sendejo Nutrition Center to the Rice football weight room. So it's just a room there that they have all their different kind of protein drinks and snacks and different nutritional
That's
supplements.
nice luxury.
Yes. And then I'm also part of the athlete mentorship program. So we get paired up with a Rice athlete, and you get to kind of help them as they are going through their last season or two at Rice, whether that's if they want to go play professionally or they want to go into the workforce. And so kind of trying to help them navigate that and whatever it is. I got paired up with someone who is trying to pursue an NFL career. And so it makes it easy for me because I went through that path. So I can kind of give them some pointers, and you just, kind of check in with them and kind of be someone that's kind of on their level that they can relate to, that they know have been through what you've been through. And so that's something that I really enjoy doing. It's like being a coach in a way, and getting to help someone out. And I know when I was in that position, I needed all the help I could get. So I'm always willing to help. And then with BrainTree, with the new NIL landscape that they have in college sports, you can give athletes the opportunity to make money or you can actually directly pay them. And so we did the first team-wide NIL deal for Rice football, where we gave everyone on the team, not just the star players, but everyone on the team an opportunity to work with BrainTree and somehow make some extra income. As you know, like some college athletes are not on scholarship. Some are struggling through, and they're just trying to pay their rent or find their next cheap meal, and they got class and they got sports and all these things. So just trying to help out wherever we can. So it's been you know extremely satisfying for me personally to be able to go back and to help wherever I can. My ultimate goal is to have Braintree in a position to where we can actually just pay players outright for different endorsement deals and different sponsorship deals. But as a young company, it was we did everything that we could. So always looking to grow there so that I can help give back even more. It's just kind of this, it's been kind of my life theme of like taking care of what I have to take care of in order to help give back later on. So it's continuing to happen.
Great. I love hearing this. This is really beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, I know you also founded Dejo Capital. It's a successful real estate investment firm focused on commercial and residential development. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that in some future episode. I think we have covered a lot more of your other parts of the story, and you have so many stories that you could share. You have so much inspirational material that you can share with our audience. So I feel so blessed that you have been with me here today. And I'm sure our listeners have found this extremely inspiring and insightful. Now, Andrew, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on social at andrew.sendejo. And then you can find Braintree at Take Braintree or at our website, BrainTreeNutrition.com.
Okay, great. And I'm also going to post the links in the description, but maybe somebody wants to check it out right now before going back to the description. So yes, any last words of wisdom, anything that you would like to share that you haven't had an opportunity to share because I haven't asked you?
No, I think, just kind of going back to what we've been basically talking about this whole time as far as leadership and different, fighting through the adversity. I think so people ask me a lot, they're like, what's like your one piece of advice that you would give to yourself? And I kind of always say, play with confidence. And just because of the story and how I, had self-doubt at times, and then I would finally realize I could play at that level. I'm like, man, I should have been playing with confidence this whole time. I would have played so much better. And I think that's just so applicable in life and business or whatever it is to play with confidence, do business with confidence, do leadership with confidence as if you belong there.
Beautiful closing message. I couldn't have hoped for anything better. Really beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrew, again for being with us today. Thank you to everyone listening, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.